Hello, and welcome to Spirit Decoded. We are currently working on episode 5 of Acceptance from Morning Moments with Spirit, and this post was done on 9/25/2021. If you want to follow along and to be able to go ahead and read what as I'm saying it, you can go to our Facebook page. It's Ethos Communing, and you'll find that on Facebook. And while you're there, please give us a like. Look up the post from 9/25/2021, and I'll be quoting that posting for Spirit's words. So let's begin. And I quote: So here is something. Here is a simple paradox of perception that causes you so much trouble within your mind. You want your brothers and sisters' approval. You seek it all the time. So you do things, little things to big things, for them to gain their approval. Yet those things you give end in disappointment or is not noticed. The end result for the reason why is because the other person was too busy focusing on what they wanted or needed to realize what was given. End quote. So, first paragraph. And this is a big one because the first line opens up where they're now getting past the fact of us accepting what we need to know before we can really understand these concepts. And now they're going to go ahead and start talking about acceptance directly. What is the issue with acceptance and how we are perceiving it that causes the issue? So in the first sentence, they say that it's a paradox of perception, and that it causes so much trouble with our mind. They go into and say next that we want our brothers and sisters' approval, that we seek it all the time. So we argue that. And this goes back to the beginning of them talking about the fact of focusing and really questioning what our motives are when we do things. They say that we're looking for acceptance. They brought up the fact of us dressing and simply putting on clothes to get out for the day. And that, do we really choose the shirt we put on for, respecting other people, or did we put it on for some type of attention, which in its own way is seeking some type of approval? What are we really looking for with our brothers and sisters? If we're wearing it in that situation for whatever our motives, to get a reaction from other people, why do we need to see that in their eyes and face in order for it to be validated? And we argue all the time in society on, oh, I grew past that. I don't care what people think anymore. I just do what I want to do. Really? Is that really true? Because if it is, we would be so far outside what the norm is for what society considers acceptable. Are we really that far outside the norm? Are we doing things so differently that society doesn't really know what to make of us? Because whenever it has decided that something or someone is outside the bounds of what is considered normal and acceptable, with tolerance levels of being different, it's usually destroyed it. So are we really that okay with just being ourselves and being whatever we want and not worrying about consideration from the world? And it's not a way of going ahead of arguing what you believe. It's a matter of putting in perspective to really ask yourself that, to really give consideration. Because until we, again, understand our motives, we're not going to be able to really accept what Spirit's saying here, because we still haven't perceived it for ourselves. So it's important that you did that work before getting to this point so that you can actually take this information in. I just wanted to point that out, that if you've just been reading along and it's been entertaining, that's what this is for you. It's entertaining. But if you're doing this expecting something to happen here, you got to go back and do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get the results from it. So Spirit's premise again is that we want our brothers and sisters' approval. We seek it all the time. You do little things. You do things, little things to big things, for them to gain their approval. Yet those things you give end in disappointment or is not noticed. Well, now this one should be something that should ring true, because how many times do we hear people complain I do this for all of you, and if only you would give me respect back, but you don't even acknowledge me. You don't even notice how giving I am to you. In some form or some way, we use that language with others. And the people that are directing that at us, we usually say, oh, they're such victims. They set themselves up, they have unrealistic expectations. We use some type of language to try to brush it off. But the point of it is that we've all, if we're going to be honest, been there and been the ones that have said that and believe that on some level. That we give far more than what people give back to us. And that what we give usually ends in some type of disappointment, and especially when it's not even noticed that we did it for people. And we believe 100% that we're doing it for them. And it becomes a cycle of, I'll give less, I'll do less, but we continue doing it. Why do we continue doing it? Is it really about a habit? Is it really about the fact that we just can't stop? Why are we continuing with the same pattern that we say we don't want? Is it possible that what Spirit's saying here is true, that we want the approval of our brothers and sisters, that we seek it all the time? And if so, how does that relate to us doing things for them? That's the key. If that is true, how does that relate to doing things for them? Spirit says that the end result for the reason why is because the other person was too busy focusing on what they wanted or needed to realize what was given. Well, again, that's true. Anyone that's in a relationship understands that premise. How many times has my mate had conversation with me about things, and then the situation comes up and they're acting like I'm on board and I know what they're talking about, and I'm standing there, you want to clue me in what's happening here? And you get well, we talked about this. I told you this on, and you're immediately reeling back, oh crap. Marriage listening was turned on. It's a basis of a lot of reality and a lot of friendships. One of the most enlightening experiences that I've had is realizing how many of the people, my friends and associates around me, don't actually listen to what I say. Here I am pouring out my heart, saying my life story, the conclusion, the who, what, where, when, and why, adding the math up, getting to the point of the grand realization of what it is that I've come to. And then next week we have the conversation about that, and they act like it's the first time that they're hearing about it. And it's happened recently on a series of events, multiple times, and made me realize they weren't really listening to you. They were just being polite. And it comes down to a question: how much of our life is actually based on the assumption that people listen to you? How much of the comfort you get from friends and family is based on that assumption that you assume that they're actually listening to you? It's a hard question. It's even harder to look for an answer, because we like thinking that we are supportive, we are approved, and that we are listened to. Because if we're not listened to, it indicates that we're not really important. Well, how does that change the relationship? It changes it a lot. And I think it's a good question to go into it, of really taking a look at a challenge, of really looking at your life and say, for friends and family, how much of your life is based on the assumption that they're actually listening to you? And what is the real level that they're actually listening to you? Next paragraph, and I quote, "What was given on your part had the basis of it being that you were only giving it to gain something from them in return. You weren't really giving them anything. You were attempting a trade, or to buy their approval. This is why, when it was not returned, You feel that there is something wrong with you because what you gave was rejected and what you were giving you perceived as yourself. End quote. This is a hard paragraph to swallow because it challenges a lot of the social niceties that we have in our society. We don't want to look at this. We're trained not to, in fact. But let's play devil's advocate and just consider and look at it. So Spirit is saying that when we give to somebody on our part, the basis of the gift is that we were giving it to gain something from them in return. Now, it's easy to go ahead and take a look at the time that we've been so giving and say, I didn't expect anything in return. And I can already hear you patting yourself on the back, because I know I would. I get it. But the trick of really looking at this is not when we're actually giving. The trick of looking at this is asking yourself, how many times can you recount that you were upset that you weren't being given back to the degree that you think you should have after everything I've done? There's the magic quote. After everything I've done. And I think regardless of who you are, that emotional energy mark, no matter what words you use to express that, the energy is the same. So don't look at it from the standpoint of you being St. Nicholas and riding into the town with your big sack and handing out gifts left and right and watching all the smiles of the little children. Look at when you go back to the North Pole and you're pissed off that you didn't get thank you letters from all these kids. Because therein lies the truth to the statement. Not when you're being giving. And they didn't even give back. After all I've done for them. There's the essence of it. After all I've done for them. If that statement comes into play, did you really give it freely? Or did you expect something back? Because the statement implies there were expectations, there were strings attached. And that's a personal one. It's also going to be important to say that this is not one of those things that is designed for you to admit so you could beat yourself up about or perceive that I'm looking down the brim of my nose at you about this. Because let me be the first one to say, yeah, I do it too. I have the same issues you do. We all do. The point of focus with this is not that you have a fault. The point of issue is your relationship to yourself. Trust me when I say the other people are fine. Because if they weren't really receiving what you were giving in the first place, they're not really perceiving, the issue when you say, after everything I've done. And if you've ever said that out loud to them and you watch the reaction, you know what I'm saying is true. Yeah, whatever. So don't do it. So it's an issue not of our relationship to the other person. The first and foremost is the relationship we're doing to ourselves. And that's the point of realization here, is how we're treating ourselves in these situations of interacting with our brothers and sisters. Spirit goes on to say, so you do little things to them, to big things for them to gain their approval. Yet those things you give and end in disappointment is not noticed. The end result, for the reason why, is because the other person was too busy focusing on what they wanted or needed to realize what was given. And that's what it comes down to. And when it comes down to, especially if you've been in a relationship, life can be really intense. Work can be intense. Friendships can be intense. Social organizations can be intense. And when you come right down to it, what's the intensity? What we create in it. being as a group mind in that situation. We make it difficult. It doesn't have to be, but we make it that way. But the end result is that we're focusing on our own life, and someone else was focusing on what they want or needed by being nice to us, and we didn't even pay attention. You know, and we've had this conversation before in previous episodes where if you had to be held accountable for not being completely 100% present to realize what everyone was doing for you in every single moment around you, what would that be like? For myself, as I said, I would go mad. There's no way I could possibly keep that type of an attention in this world to be aware of that much information and keep track of it all. But yet, we expect that of everybody. Well, in all actuality, we expect that of them only when we're speaking. And we just exclude the fact that so is everyone else. And therein lies the problem. We think because we say it, everyone should be paying attention, and everyone else thinks the same thing, which is why, for a large part, we just take in what we can and do the best we can, which creates a lot of disappointing feelings and situations. Let's go into the next paragraph. Spirit says, what was given on your part had the basis of it being that you were only giving it to gain something from them in return. You weren't really giving them anything. You were attempting a trade or to buy their approval. That's an offensive statement. In our society, when someone tells you that, those are fighting words. How dare you? And then we give a litany of a laundry list of what we've done. That was so free. That was so giving. And how dare you say that about me? Because it's meant as an insult. Spirit doesn't mean it's as an insult. And that's going to take some getting used to, because what they said were strong words. Who wants to admit this? But yet, if there's a truth here, if you don't realize and accept it, you can't move past it, because you're too busy dressing it to be what you need it to be okay in your eyes. You're hiding from the truth. And here's where it comes down to. You have what this means in society. We have been trained, when you say such a statement, you're attempting a trade or to buy their approval. Buy their approval is very much like treating them like a whore. You're buying someone. A trade goes into some shady grounds as well, depending on how you work that. So either way, you're questioning someone's integrity and morals. This is not the way Spirit means this. And it comes down to a realization as far as what we do that is considered normal and acceptable, and stepping back and looking at it and saying, does this make me feel connected? Does this bring the result that I wanted? And what do we want when we interact with someone? We're looking for some type of connection. We're looking for something that's going to make us feel like we're not alone. And they're looking for the same thing. It may not be in the exact moment that we're interacting with them, but that's why they do what they do. That's why we do what we do, but we're just not listening to each other. And so when we go through and do this, we're tempted to trade or to buy their approval. So what does it mean when we go out and get a gift for our loved one and we make sure we get them something nice? What does nice mean? Does that mean a certain financial level? We can't just buy a gold ring. We need the gold ring with diamonds. But not just a diamond, a nest of diamonds. And if it's not that, then we're not a worthy mate, because we're cheap. because we're low class, because we don't have enough money, because we can't provide. It's the whole idea of relationships a dowry, but are we buying their approval? You bet your life we are. How about when we buy them a car? Or they buy us a car? When we're getting a gift, is it what they really want? Or is it what they really expect? And if it's what they expect, why do they expect that? And what's on the end of that expectation? Is it their approval? So did you just buy their approval? Because it kind of sounds like you did. How about if we're doing a trade? That I'll listen to you because I expect you to listen to me. You can call me anytime because I know when I need to, I can call you. And what happens when we call that person and they don't have time to listen to us and they got to go? After everything I've done for you. So were we giving it freely or were we expecting a trade? These are the little things in our lives that goes into the point of what Spirit is talking about. And it is not, repeat, it is not with the point of feeling bad about ourselves or to make ourselves as immoral or less than. The point of it is to realize we're taking an action that intentionally does not allow us to connect. Because it didn't work before, it isn't working now, and it's not going to work in the future. Oh, sure, you may get appreciation temporarily, but how long does that last? How many marriages do you know where someone got the granddaddy of the cluster of engagement rings with the wedding to boot and ended in divorce? What happened to that appreciation? Didn't it last? Because the bills from the marriage is still there. The diamond ring is still there. So why isn't the appreciation? How does a diamond outlast appreciation? Because wasn't that what you were buying? Does the shelf life for spoilage for appreciation have a less of a shelf life than a diamond? Maybe we should have just bought the diamond for ourselves and we would have lasted longer than appreciation. So my point to you here in the wordplay with that is to point out the fact that it doesn't last. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring to that sense of completeness. Things still change. Appreciation is not giving long term. It's something that's given moment by moment. And if you're starting a contract of doing it by buying it or trading it, then that's a job. You have to continue buying it. And you have to continue trading to receive it. And even then, it's not 100%. And now you take that understanding of just that simplicity and you take a look at how much of our life in different angles and situations this could be applied to. And then ask yourself, well, why are we so disappointed all the time? Is it really such a mystery? And that's Spirit's point. Again, it's not to say that to insult us. It's to say that for us to realize what we're doing is not working. It hasn't worked then. It's not working now. And it's not going to work in the future. And now let's expand that. It didn't work the last life. It's not working this life. And it's not going to work the next life. But yet, we're going to continue doing it. You bet your sweet karma we are. We're going to continue doing it. Because we have. Because we don't question it. How do we continue living a life, doing a technique that does not bring us a sense of connectedness, looking for connecting with someone, and continue doing what doesn't work. How do we keep doing that? But we do, over and over and over again. And can you understand now why the Buddhist principle says that acting in such a way is unconscious and ignorance? Ignorance of karma, ignorance of actions. And that's what Spirit is bringing to our attention with that statement, is that it's not working. And the reason why is because we're trading or buying their approval. They continue and say, this is why when it is not returned, you feel that there is something wrong with you, because what you gave was rejected, and what you were giving you perceived as yourself. Let me give you an example of this one from my life. There was someone, they were so beautiful. I was younger, they're young, oh, the sweet 20s. And I'm like a really introverted guy. I can be extroverted in the right situation with people that I trust, and sometimes, admittedly, with a little bit of alcohol. But for the most part, I'm very much an introvert. So for me to be able to simply, at that time, say that I wanted them was a really big deal. I really wanted them. And I was rejected. I was given a flat no. No, thank you. And so the situation ended and they left, and I'm home alone, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm feeling sorry for myself. I think I was like 28, 29 years old then. And Spirit has always been direct with me. And so there I am sitting on the couch, and Spirit pipes up and says about me feeling bad about being rejected. If I give you $20 and you give it back to me, how much do I have? And I said, $20. And she said, so it's the same amount that I would receive back. You offered yourself. It was a gift, and it was declined. And so you got the gift back. And now you feel you got less back than what you gave. And then she said, so I guess you didn't really value what you originally gave. Ouch. But the point of it, the point of the lesson that she gave me was that if I had valued what I gave, then I certainly would not have felt any less that I got it back. But the reason why I did was because I needed to be approved for it to have value. See, I offered it, and underneath that was the idea or the belief that approval of it would have shown I had worth. Approval of it would have shown I was sexy. Approval of it would have shown I was worthwhile to sleep with. But I was told no. And obviously, I was told no because I didn't have value. I wasn't worthwhile to sleep with. So therefore, I had no worth. Otherwise, why would they have said no? Well, it could have been something really simple, like there just wasn't a connection. They didn't relate to me that way. There's so many things that go into that. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was what I was given wasn't free from some type of attachment. What I was given needed them to approve it for it to have worth. Because I didn't value it in the first place. If I did, when it was rejected and handed back, it still would have been the same $20. But it wasn't. It felt like $1.20. And therein lies the issue that we continue to do with ourselves. And because it was rejected, and what you were giving, you perceived as yourself. What I was giving that person and offering, I perceived as myself. And what was the perception? It needed acceptance to have value. And because it didn't, it was no less than. So did I offer something freely? And did I value it to begin with? The answer is no. Well, based on those conditions, how could I ever know completeness? Let's just go ahead and role play and say they accepted and said, get in the sheets, mister. We're going to have a good time. Yay. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to try to rock your world. This is great. And then come the day after, I wake up alone, they snuck out of the house, and they never speak to me again. Oh, I now have no value again. Or I'm in a relationship, it lasts 4 years, I'm no longer in a relationship, I don't have value. As long as they were in my life and constantly affirming I had value, then I did. But the moment that they stopped affirming was the moment I no longer had value because I was rejected. How exhausting is it to have someone in your life that you have to spend all your energy constantly filling their cup to give them value, or they feel like they don't have any? How exhausting. How much are you creating your own suffering by constantly asking other people to do that for you when you have the well of God inside you and can fill it in an instant? And no matter how much someone tries to fill that cup for you, it always leaks out the bottom, and you're hungry again, and you got to ask them for more again, over and over and over again. And what Spirit is saying here in understanding your awareness with this is this comes in many directions and many forms. I use the example of a sexual interaction, but you can use that with a boss, with talking with a girlfriend, boyfriend, talking with family, checking out at the grocery store. Those red threads are throughout our entire society. And the one that is holding the leash of all those threads is your hand. Because again, it's what state of being you're creating when you originally try to make the deal or interact with your brother and sister for approval. You seek it all the time. So you do things, little things to big things, for them to gain their approval. Constantly, we are seeking our brothers and sisters' approval, as much as we are deluded in thinking, I don't need anyone's approval. I'm an island. I'm a rock. Really, we're not. And as much as we'd like to be, we may hold that position for a while, but eventually we drift back, and next thing you know, people are involved again. And we're doing the same thing over again. The issue here is not stopping interaction with our brothers and sisters. Our issue is understanding why it doesn't work in the first place. And understanding that the way that we're giving and when it's being rejected, it's not ourselves. Because even when we temporarily get their approval, it's still not ourselves. The approval we get doesn't really feed us. It's no different than getting the latest flagship phone from me. I'm temporarily happy. It might last a week, and then the smile fades. And I'm already starting to scan, ooh, what's the new technology? Look at that coming out. Maybe that's better. It's always the next thing around the corner. And off we go, chasing an illusion. So let's go into the next paragraph. Give me a second, I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. Okay. Next paragraph, and I quote, "The point of confusion was the source of acceptance. Acceptance is not something that can be earned or bought. If it is not real, which is why it never satisfies you. Now here is the important part as to why this confusion occurs. Hear us when we say this, because this is the source of what created the jail cell for your mind. The confusion that you suffer from is that you think the source of your world is outside of yourself when in truth, it is your mind." End quote. This is a big paragraph. This is probably the heart of this episode, right here, this paragraph. So they said, and they've been building to it, saying that our issue is acceptance. It causes the bulk of our pain. It's a major bone of contention in our ability to exist on this planet. Acceptance. Now they're going ahead and boiling that down, right down to its essence, to tell us exactly what it is and how it works. So this is important. So they say, our point of confusion was the source of acceptance, not acceptance, the source of acceptance. Think about that for a moment before we go on. We think of acceptance, and it's just acceptance. Spirit just said, no, it's not acceptance. It's the source of where you think it comes from. But where do you think acceptance comes from? Well, we just got done talking about that. If we're going to be honest about it, with everything that we just said previously to the beginning of this episode, it would be from other people. That's what we're doing, right? We're looking for our brothers and sisters' acceptance. And that's why we do all these complicated things, live complicated lives, jump to all these hoops, trying to please so many people, our bosses, our families, our mates, all our churches, our society, all these expectations thrown upon us. Expectations that is there for us to have their acceptance. Constantly whipping us in our back, so we're jumping through the hoops, constantly at being moved because they've changed their mind, constantly when we go ahead and get done with one thing that would have led to acceptance, I've changed my mind. Instead, and we steel ourselves and roll our eyes. And we get to the point of being older, bitter, and just not caring that we care about it anymore. Let me repeat that. Not caring that we care about it. It's not that we stop caring about it. We just stop caring that we care about it. Because sitting and wallowing in that pain, at least it's familiar, and it takes less effort than jumping through all these people's hoops. Think about that for a moment. And hear what I just said. We grow older to the point of accepting, not caring anymore that we care about other people's acceptance. And that's entirely different than living our lives like we don't want people's acceptance. We say that, but how many of us are in the other category? Because we do care about people's acceptance. We still want it. We just don't care that we want it. And we don't care that we care about it, which is a pain within itself. But that pain, that we can control. That we can keep a constant. And it takes less effort to keep ourselves there in pain steadily, numbing it, or attempting to numb it, than seeking it outside of ourselves and jumping through people's hoops and still getting disappointed. Don't believe me? How many times have you heard people say in relationships, here we go back to the love of loves, that I don't believe I'll ever find love, so I'm just going to accept being alone. If I had $10 every time I've seen that on Facebook, I'd be making some big buku. How about you? And it may be phrased differently, but it's the essence. I just don't care anymore. I'm just going to accept that I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. So you still want a relationship. You still want to be held. You want to be touched. You want someone there to be caring and concerning. You want someone there that you can be with. But you've just accepted that's not going to happen for the rest of your life, because that is less painful than going out to try to find a relationship and constantly being rejected. How am I doing so far? Anybody crying out there? Hit a nerve or two? Because we can use this example in several areas in our lives. We do this to ourselves all the time. If it gets to be too much of a muchness, that's our course of action. And then we say, over coffee and wine, I just don't care what the world thinks anymore. Translation, I'm always in pain. So I'm in so much pain, I'm usually a big B. And there we are. There's our solution. And we've accepted it. Because we just don't believe what we wanted was possible. And what I'm telling you is to consider that it's not what you wanted, but how you went about it. And that the source of what you were looking for was not where you thought it was going to be. I can buy as many flagship phones as I want. And trust me, I love buying them. Love them, love them, love them. But that's not happiness. That's not contentment. And that's materialism at its finest, and I own it. And as a male, I love playing with the latest technology. I love what it can do. I love the fact I'm in the middle of the woods right now and I'm recording this on my phone. And it's crystal clear. And when it's done, I'm going to edit the video and put this sound into it and then post it online. All done from a phone in the middle of the woods. Yeah, I love technology. I love good technology. Don't like bad technology. I like the best technology. But that doesn't make me content, and I know the difference. And the question here is, do you? Do you know the difference? How long have you been trying the same game on the same problem and not getting the results you needed? Did you know what the issue was? Or did you just quit and give up and stick with the pain that you know? Consider the possibility of what Spirit is saying here. The point of confusion was the source of acceptance. Not acceptance, the source of it. Let's continue. Spirit then said, acceptance is not something that can be earned or bought. Well, I think we just covered that one. If it is not real, which is why it never satisfies you. Yeah, again, the phone example, we just covered that. Now here is the important part as to why this confusion occurs. All right, now people, at this point, they're saying that the confusion was the source of the acceptance. By now, there should be alarm bells ringing off of, wait, I know this pain. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you're talking about a potential solution. And Spirit just said, now here's the important part as to why this confusion occurs. All right, now, we should be sitting up, full attention, leaning in and listening. Because this sounds pretty important if we actually want to get out of the pain and have a solution. Spirit continues and says, hear us when we say, this is because this is the source of what created the jail cell for your mind. Now, since the beginning of the series on acceptance, Spirit's been saying that our mind is trapped. that we're not really free, that we're in a jail cell. And they're now saying this is the source of what created this jail cell. So again, here it is, folks. This is important. Spirit continues and says, the confusion that you suffer from is that you think the source of your world is outside of yourself, when in truth, it is your mind. Now, we've been going over this information as far as understanding and outlining that when we think it's people, places, and things, what we are experiencing is actually our mind. The people, places, and things is their own mind. The question is, what are we experiencing in reaction to that? That is creating a state of being. That is our mind. And why? And this is the key, because I want to go into the whole positivity thing again, because I know I'm expecting a lot of, excuse the pun, negative feedback from that. But I want to really make it clear and understanding. So we're in a situation where we're reacting to a situation in a negative way. And we're holding dense energy, which is what I prefer, and our energy contracts. We feel like we can't breathe. We're angry. We're guilty. We're this, whatever. Fill in the void. Filling it in a situation of your own personal experience would be most important. A situation when you would determine, yes, this is when I was being negative, and this is what I was reacting to. Now, the solution that's currently being taught, which is not a bad thing. It's not a question that it's wrong. As Spirit said, are you ready for more advanced teachings on the self? Big difference. But the current teaching is to stop the negativity and make it positive. So you think positive thoughts, expand your energy back out, and you feel a whole lot better about life and everything going on. What did not just happen was the focus of understanding that what was causing it was your belief in the person, place, or thing. If, then, when, what, why. Your thoughts and emotions directing you from a state of being to what the problem was. And we use the positivity by grabbing positive things using the same technique. Who, what, where, when, and why. And we change it to why we should be positive about it, and in a way, sometimes chastise ourselves for feeling dense or negative, and then attempt to retranslate it into something positive. I called it toxic positivity. And you'll see this in New Age crowds, spiritual crowds, where a issue comes up and the person starts talking about it in a very real way to them, sharing their pain, sharing where they're at, and in comes Susie Positivity, interrupting them, stopping their process and saying, that's just being negative. Think positive. Let it go. Let's change the subject. And off we go. And the person has their energy thrown back at them, which is looked at the fact of, it's acceptable because they were being negative and we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to hear that. But at the same time, the positivity aspect has a person, place, or thing, what, why, when attached to it. So is the mind freed from following the thoughts and emotion and following them like a slave on a chain? Instead of being dragged now by the dense energy, negative energy, instead we're being dragged by what we consider society acceptable positivity, toxic positivity. We're being dragged by that so that we have to act a certain way, talk a certain way, be a certain way, so that it's acceptable and we're looked at as something acceptable. We get approval. And if we don't, then we get disapproval. So aren't we still tied to the chain? And think back to what Spirit said. They said in a previous episode, you know, do you want to be positive or do you want to be positive about not knowing your mind? You still don't know your mind. You still are trapped in the jail cell. And the difference is wording. Now I have to be positive, but do you really feel positive? Did Susie say that comment in a positive way? Was it uplifting? Was it an uplifting experience for everybody there when she spoke? Or did it feel like criticism? Is that positive? Is that type of criticism a positive tool if used correctly? Well, what happened to the person saying it? Were they healed? How about everyone else around them? Was that healing experience? So what's really going on? How is this really working? And understand, Spirit says the confusion that you suffer from is that you think the source of your world is outside of yourself when in truth it is your mind. So which would have been more helpful to the person going through that? An explanation of, I can understand why you're feeling that way based on the circumstances you're saying. But in that moment, whatever they were dealing with as far as for their situation, how you were reacting to it in that moment was your creation. That's your karma. That's your mind. You have control over that. I don't know if you know that or not, but you do. It is possible to exist in this world and have everyone else act crazy and still decide to be fine, to be in a moment, to be at peace. Now, saying that and understanding that is two different things. You can write it down, what I just said, as an affirmation and place it on every mirror in the house. Put it on a bumper sticker. Make bookends for it. This way you can have your place and have the saying on it. Place it wherever you want. Having it set in your mind as a reminder is not going to do anything unless you're willing to actually see the truth of it. Which means you're willing to see what you're currently holding and how you're currently manifesting, to the point that you get sick from it, to the point that you realize, I can't do this another day. I can't be this anymore. Now we're talking. The affirmations are nice. They plant seeds, and that's great. But if you don't actually do any work to make them grow, they die. Or they go into sleep. So believe me when I say, God already created you. You already have every single seed you need planted. It's already there because it created you. You don't need seeds planted. What you need is the work to have them watered and grow. So the affirmations, the reminders, the positivity, all this stuff, it's nice. It makes you feel good about life. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing. But there comes a point in time when you've been doing all this positive work and you ask, where is the growth? Why am I still dealing with? If you're there, then you understand what I'm talking about. You get it. If you're not, continue with the positivity, because if you're not grasping that, you're not ready to. Continue on. Do exactly what you're doing until you realize this is not getting me what I thought I did, what I wanted. And if you're at that point of realizing, yeah, this is not getting me what I wanted, yes, I feel better about life, but I'm still dealing with all this crap. Try taking a look at the crap. Try really see what you're doing to pile that up on your plate. And really look at not the crap and feel bad about it. The techniques you're doing, what a master we are on how to deliver it to the plate. What techniques are we using? What are we doing over and over again? It's the realm of the uncreative. Because we do the same thing over and over again and don't realize that's what's causing the problem. And until you do, I'm positive you're not going to let it go because you don't know that it's there. How could you let it go if you're not conscious of it? Do you see the difference? You have to be conscious of it to let it go. And if you're doing it unconsciously, I'm positive you're not going to get rid of it. And you can write that down as an affirmation. You have to be conscious of it. You have to make it conscious so that you can work on it. And that means observation. That means actually taking what you want to go away by being positive about it. No, first step is become conscious of it. Then you can use positivity. Otherwise, it becomes, as I've said before in previous episodes, there's a hole in the wall. Let me get this pretty colored picture and put it over the hole. Did I seal the hole? No. Did I fix the hole? No. I just covered it with something pretty to look at. And that's the issue. So, going back into it, Spirit says the confusion that we suffer from is that we think the source of our world is outside of ourselves, when in truth, it is your mind. It is not the situation and changing the situation. It is in that moment understanding what reality is. And yes, learning to take the action to correct the problem is very important. But if you're not having that spark of realization of the truth of that statement, then you don't have the experience to understand it. Because what you're doing is you're not correcting the problem, you're correcting the effect of the problem. I'm being negative, so I'm going to apply positive. I have dense energy. I'm going to expand it by going ahead and using positivity with these examples that makes me feel expanded. I'm going to meditate, I'm going to light a candle, I'm going to take a bath, I'm going to say prayers, I'm going to read the Bible, I'm going to read the Dharma, I'm going to read whatever. I'm going to go get a reading to ask what the problem is. It must be a psychic attack. Let me go ahead and do these grids and do these prayers, blah, 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 blah. Do. And what you're doing is stepping in do. Because you keep doing it. But what you're not doing, what's not being done by us in mass on this world, or Spirit wouldn't be having this conversation, is that we're not stopping the problem, we're dealing with the reaction from the problem. The actual problem is that we don't know the difference from the source of our world and the difference between that and our mind. We still think what makes us feel and think the way that we do is our world. And we do not understand, nor do we grasp, that how we react, how we think and feel, is a reaction from a state of being. And that we have a choice in our state of being. And that our state of being is not defined in this world by two goalposts of, are you hungry or are you starving? Are you cold or are you hot? Wait, let's get more extreme. Let's add some drama. Are you freezing or are you sweltering? Let's really define it. Because that's what our mind does. Oh no, my boss is being mean to me. Is he having a bad day? Or is he out to get you? Oh no, my coworkers don't like me. Are they picking on you? Or are they trying to get you fired? Onward and onward. Two goalposts. And that is the source of our definition. Because depending on how we answer those questions, that's how I feel. And I don't have a choice. I mean, if my boss is trying to get me fired, oh my God, what drama. I have to react to that. Let me go home and talk about it with my spouse. Let me go over what could have happened and why it happened and what that meant and what that feels like and how I'm going to react to that and what I'm going to say and what I'm going to do. And get me a tissue. Stop it. Stop it. None of that is real. That's their point. That is the jail cell. You don't know the difference from those two goalposts, this and that in your world, and that state of being is your mind, and that you have another option. Once you realize that's an illusion, you have another option. You always have. All the saints talk about it. All the masters talk about it. What do you think they're talking about? It's nothing that you need to go to another dimension for. It's right here. You are it. You are the dimension. It's your mind. You have no place else to go. Because even when someone says, I went to another dimension and it was ethereal and it was angels and it was music and oh my God and blah, 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 they're still in their mind and they're still reacting to it. And they think it's someplace else. They still are confused by illusion. Stop being confused by the illusion. It is not real. It is your mind. That's the issue of the source of attention, is that we think it's outside of ourselves in the world. We have the issue, the greatest pain is that we want to feel connected. And so we try to connect with our brothers and sisters. The need to connect with our brothers and sisters are natural. That's what Spirit's saying. Let's go into the next paragraph because it's going to go into this. And I quote, you want and need the acceptance of your brothers and sisters. So you seek it in your world by doing physical activities to earn it from them. Your lifetimes of pain and suffering is the end result of working this formula over and over in confusion that continues to make matters worse for your belief of what you perceive you are, and from this your worth and how you create the world around you. Well now, end quote. That's pretty important. So according to this, we want and need the acceptance of our brothers and sisters. That's the foundation. No matter what, we want and need the acceptance of our brothers and sisters. It's built into us. It's part of who and what we are. We can't change it. That's why we fight with it all the time. That's why we stumble over it. And that's why Spirit said it's not that we are doing it, it's how we're doing it. It's the source of acceptance that's the issue. So they say you seek it in your world by doing physical activities to earn it from them. Well, if we want the raise, what do? We do work at work. If we want our wife or husband's approval, what do? We make sure the trash is out, dishes done, kids are good. We do things around the house. We take care of our responsibilities. And then we get appreciation. Now, Spirit says your lifetimes of pain and suffering. Stop for a moment and hear what they just said. Wait a minute. Our lifetimes of pain and suffering is the end result. So they're describing why we've been in pain for lifetimes, and they're relating it back to an issue. That seems pretty important to me. Now, they say it's the end result of working this formula over and over in confusion that continues to make matters worse for our beliefs and what we perceive we are, and from this, our worth. And then we create the world around ourselves. So let's break that down. So we want the acceptance of our brothers and sisters. And brothers and sisters is not our family brothers and sisters. I think by now you know that. It's anyone alive. Your neighbors, your wife, your kids, the priest, people in church, your bosses, all brothers and sisters. So the world of brothers and sisters, we seek their acceptance. And we think that that source for that is outside of ourselves and we have to do things for them. Spirit's already laid the foundation that the end result is that we get disappointed. We don't get what we're looking for. And we come down inevitably to after everything we've done for them. And we say that in family, relationships, marriages, boyfriend, girlfriend, you name it, it's there. That sentiment somehow creeps in when we get disappointed because they should appreciate us more. That's our problem. Why don't they? Why can't people see me for who I am? Why can't people love me? Why can't people hear me? Why can't people accept me the way that I am? All indications that indeed we think the source of acceptance is outside of ourselves and in the world. With me so far? So we go through lifetimes of this. It's the same formula. We're working over and over again, no matter what lifetime. If you've had situations where you've had previous lifetime and you've had memories of them from past life transgressions, rebirthing, different things, then play with me here and sit back and really consider. Put your legs up, close your eyes, and think back to your experiences of remembering your past lives. Was it real? Was it not real? Unless you're going to ground that into, yes, I looked it up in the records. I was in Ireland and I was here in the 17th century and that's my family name, that's my family plot, and there I am in the history books. Everything I said is written right there. And you can't really prove the past life is true. For all you know, it's not. And you have to be honest with that. You can feel and know that it's true and it could make sense, but you don't really physically know it's true because you can't really prove it. But yet, there have been tons of examples of people actually proving past lives. That they do find physical documentation for their memories, which is always fascinating. So do I believe in past lives? Yes, I do. But regardless of whatever it is that your experience is, if you've had some memories of past lives, sit back, put your feet up, relax, and consider them. And then ask yourself, is spirit off here? The pain of that life, the issue, did it have to do with acceptance from people, places, and things around you? And not receiving that, not having that, not getting what you expected or wanted or needed? Isn't all the pain that we've experienced somehow, some way related to, if only they would appreciate me like I appreciate them after everything I've done for them? Examine those lives and examine what happened. And the pain of, like, for example, one of my past lives, I believe it was Ireland. I was husband, had a wife, kids, farm. I could still see it clear in my mind. Not the best plot of land, very rocky, hard to work. And went out with the guys, young, married young back then in that society. Had 2 kids. I believe third was on the way. Not sure about that. But went out with the guys, was horsing around and climbing up a small embankment/cliff. and slipped and fell and broke my neck on the way down. My regret of that life was the fact that realizing I was just playing with the guys and being a dude. And through that, left my wife with kids on a farm that there's no way that she's going to be able to keep up with and take care of. Out into the country, away from town. And it was just absolute worry about what happened to them and just a regret of not being able to be there to help raise the family. Okay, that's a bit different. But when you look into the stuff that we carry lifetime from lifetime, you know, issues with family members, issues with lovers, issues with society, issues with jobs, issues with, it's going to all come back down to, in some form or some way, acceptance and not having acceptance, rejection. Most of the pain that we carry is wrapped around from that. So looking at this and their statement, we come into the next life and we do the same formula over. We still seek acceptance and believe it's going to be earned by doing something right in this life. And we do it in the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And somehow what we're going to do, we're going to create the perfect relationship. We're going to create the perfect family. We're going to create the perfect job. We're going to create the perfect this, perfect that. And it never really is. It's built on too many variables. And that acceptance, that love that we want to be continual, does it happen? No, it certainly doesn't. And as much as we try to go ahead and accept that, that never will. Just accept that you'll never get that. If we've accepted that, then why do we keep doing it? Why are we going to do it next life when we did it for the past 15 lives? Why do we keep doing it? And their point to say that, think about just this life. Let's just get out the past lives and just look at just this life. Why does it feel harder to keep going as you get older? Why does it feel like you're carrying more weight and emotional burden and baggage as you get older? Why do people answer that question usually with, because betrayals keep happening and it's harder and harder to get up and go on? Betrayals? What betrayals? And what are those betrayals about? Stop for a moment and really examine that statement. What betrayals? Who did what? And what was that really all about? Because now we're cooking. Now we're getting into the heart of it. So with each betrayal, it makes matters worse for our belief of what we perceive we are, and from this, our worth. And from that, how we create the world around you. As you've gotten older, and don't get me wrong, some of you have done great work on clearing up this wreckage and getting this weight out from underneath you. But it still comes down to, at this point, stopping what's piling it on your plate in the first place. Coming into acceptance and understanding and seeing it clearly. But overall, for people, why does it become more and more difficult as we go on? And as the betrayals pile up, that we call betrayals, it affects how we value our worth, how we perceive ourselves, and from this, what world we create around us. Do we miss the enthusiasm of the 20s and what was possible and what we thought we were going to be? What we thought we were going to be and accomplish. And we look at ourselves now. How do those two compare? Are we just as enthusiastic as we used to be? Or did we tone it down a bit to, quote unquote, become more realistic with the world in which we live? Here's the harder question. As we've toned it down and lowered our expectation, did our self-worth and what we perceive and believe we are lower in agreement? What did we give up to lower that expectation, to make it more realistic? Ouch. Hard questions, I know. Going on to the next paragraph, Spirit says, and I quote, acceptance of yourself and your brothers and sisters was already created by God, and we call it eternity. It is a state of being that is all-inclusive, that accepts everyone simultaneously, because we all share and are the same grace while emanating that light through different angles. You have heard information similar to this before, and something within reaches for this when you do. We will once again hold up a mirror and share an uncomfortable truth. It doesn't matter. The point we wish for you to finally grasp is that you can know something is the truth, but this will not lead to the physical experience of it. You have to do the work, and the work needed is understanding and changing the way your mind manifests now. End quote. Okay, another powerful paragraph in here. Now, let's jump into the first sentence. Acceptance of yourself and your brothers and sisters was already created by God, comma, and we call it eternity. Well, that changes things, because here's why it does. Acceptance throughout this entire work, Spirit has been clearly saying that we believe it's outside of ourselves, that we have to earn it, we have to buy it, we have to do something and trade for it. And that's how we get acceptance. If I want to be accepted as your mate, I need a good ring. I need a good marriage. The wedding, the restaurant, the bells and whistles, the limousine, the dresses, the suits, whatever it takes, the fancy cake. I need it all. And this could be broken down on so many levels of expectations, from the littlest to the greatest. When it comes down to what should be done, there's a list of expectations that we do to gain acceptance. And we are always disappointed again that it's not giving back to the degree that we think it should be, based on what we've done. Because they didn't notice, because they're too busy stuck in their own mind, because they're just ungrateful, they are selfish. There's a litany of reasons, but either way, it wasn't free what we gave, because we expected something back. And our world is built on this principle. It's what makes it go round, even though the greatest side effect of it is dissatisfaction and disappointment in life. Let me repeat that. This energy is what makes our world go round. In our physical world, even though the greatest side effect from it is dissatisfaction with life. We don't change it. We don't hold it accountable. We don't say, I quit. We say we didn't do it good enough, we didn't do it well enough, or they're a jerk and are selfish and don't recognize it. And then we do it again. And then we either blame ourselves or blame them. Maybe we blame both. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we die. And then we're born. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. So on and so forth. And we don't stop and say, this isn't working. And it really is because we don't realize that we're doing it, so therefore we can't get another choice. Now, the sentence here of acceptance of your brothers and sisters was already created by God. Whoa, stop. So Spirit just said acceptance in its true form of our brothers and sisters, here we are, connecting. We want to feel connected. We want to be part of something in life. We want to feel whole and complete. and we wanted to include our brothers and sisters. Spirit just told us this was already created by God. So this would be the founding energy that makes up this universe. It's what everything rests on. And it already exists. Acceptance of ourselves and our brothers and sisters. And God already created it. And, we call it eternity. Which means it feeds itself. It continues as a state of I am. Oh, by the way, what did God describe itself as? I am. Eternity. So our issue is, and now you can understand why it circles back to Spirit saying that our issue is that we think the source of our mind is the two goalposts, duality, in our world. This and that. Where are you in between it? You have to define it. And based how you define it, you then move the goalpost of what you have to do to get around it. And whatever that is that we're reacting to creates a state of being, which at that point excites our emotions and thoughts to expanding, contracting, whatever. And we think that whatever, based on that information of keeping our attention on our thoughts or emotions and ignoring the state of being that we're creating, and then putting the thoughts and emotions connected directly to who, what, where, when, and why, we then create a list of what we have to do with who, what, when, and why to resolve the issue, which makes our thoughts and emotions react again. And so we move that around. It makes them react again. It moves it around, makes them react again. And all we're doing is constantly reacting, chasing an illusion, and then we wonder why we can't actually hear each other and be in the same moment, like me telling my mate, take the trash out. Uh-huh. Leave the house. What stays? The trash. Why? Because I wasn't really listening. I wasn't really present. Well, how could I be? How could I be present with all this noise going on in my head? How could you? How could your mate be present? How could anybody be present 100% of the time with all this noise going on in our heads? It's why we don't notice what's happening right under our noses. It's why we don't connect the dots of what we're doing to our world. And this goes back to the point of we have confused the source of acceptance. It's not in the world. God already created it, which means if God already created it, then we have to take our attention off of that as the source of our mind and put it back where it belongs, which is on what God created. But before we can do that, we have to be conscious of what we're doing now and actually observe and study it. Because until we do and become conscious of it, that we are creating illusion and believing that it's real, that we are mismanaging our mind, that we are creating our own sorrows. And until we get that, we can't perceive what God created. Divinity cannot work through us until we accept that. Because we can't accept what God created, which means divinity can't come through, folks. So eternity is blocked from us. And if it is, so is acceptance. Which is why we don't feel it here. Now, we may tap into it a bit when we meditate. Oh, sure. But as a state of being, it is. It's not a question. It's like cheddar cheese hot fries. Do you like them or don't you like them? It is. You like them or you don't like them. It is. It's not in question. And you know. You don't question anymore because it's not a debate. You know. But we don't know, which is why we can't tap into eternity. We can't tap into our true state of mind. We can't tap into what God created, which is why we don't know acceptance, which is why we continue to chase it into this world, following madness, and why we're lost is because we haven't understood what we're doing to create that yet. We haven't realized it, and we haven't accepted it. And until we do, it won't happen. And it's an interesting note that we have to accept what we can't accept in order to get acceptance. See how that works? Acceptance gets acceptance. But the first thing we have to do is accept what we're creating now and that it doesn't work for us. Spirit continues and says, it is a state of being that is all-inclusive, that accepts everyone simultaneously because we all share and are the same grace while emanating the light through different angles. All right, that's some New Age esoteric stuff right there. I was going to use the bull word, but I'm trying to keep it clean. Let me break that down to you something that's more understandable. And again, getting intellectual grasp of this is not going to do it. You have to experience it. And you need your mind, as God created it, to grasp it. Spirit can't explain this to you. Neither can I. It can give you a general idea of it. But knowing it, there's only one source you can go to for that. It's going to be your mind. Because that's what God speaks to you through. And you can't know God until you know your mind. And you can't accept God until you accept what it created. And as long as you reject yourself, you reject God. Which is why we say we know God. But when we look at our wars and how we have our society set, and how there are acceptable amount of suffering, and all our laws are built on that, not ending suffering, acceptable amounts of suffering. It's obviously we don't know God. It's apparently clear. Why I need to say that right now? Not sure. It should be clear in everyone's mind. But it's not. It's not. That's how lost we are. And we don't even realize it. We just continue chasing the illusion. Life after life. So, breaking it down now, it's a state of being. Right off the bat, it's a state of being. Now, let's go to the other side to see the polar image of it. We said, being at a supermarket, being annoyed who's in front of you, finding something that gets you going, and you're in a negative zone, projecting that all over the place, and it's everyone around you because you just want to get out of the place, just check me out already. However that works out for you, that situation is a state of being. Not the people around you. They're doing what they're doing, which is creating their own state of being. But your reaction to it is your state of being. And from that, your thoughts and emotions react and color it in for you. And from there, you get the physical experience of it. And now you're being it, fully and completely. From inside and out, through your heart, through your mind, through your emotional center, whatever it is, disgusting as it is, you are it. You blame that on what's physically occurring around you. That's the reason, that's the fault. It's not, it's you, it's your mind. It's what you're choosing to be. Switching that around to the other polarity of this, it is a state of being. So that means what they're talking about here, as far as what God created, is going to join your heart, your emotions, your mind, everything you are into one state of being. So whatever this is of a state of being that's going to be your mind that God created, it's going to take everything that's separate and bring it into a whole. Just like in that moment, when you're experiencing whatever it is in that checkout line, there's no mind, emotion, there's no heart. Whatever it is that's happening, you're experiencing it straight through. It is from a state of I am. And whatever it is, as nasty as it is, you are it. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that so much is because I want to point out, don't make this state of being that Spirit's talking about called eternity complicated. If you can experience it at the checkout line of a local Piggly Wiggly or Publix, then you can experience this in eternity. It's no different. The question is, what are you perceiving? What has your attention? And what are you giving your will to? It certainly is not what God created. And that's the issue. One that you need to realize. Once you do, then we come back to this state of being. But this state of being they're describing as all-inclusive, accepts everyone simultaneously, because we all share and are the same grace, while emanating that light through different angles. You are unique. You see life differently than anybody else. You are a sum total of whatever experiences you've had. Now, whatever that is, this state of being is going to take all of that separation, and just like the state of being at the supermarket, take all of that and wrap it into one moment, no separation, and you experience it. I am. When you're at the supermarket, at that checkout line, whatever it is that you're experiencing, as disgusting as it may be, you are. You are it. You are in a state of I am. Because you are mind. When you learn to let that go, you can accept what God created. You'll understand that again from the state of I am, but understand it as God intended it, because it's going to come through that experience. Because we all share and are the same grace. What grace? Is that a female grace? Is that a person? What grace are they talking about? There's only one grace that moves through the universe, and that is, according to Spirit, God. So we're going to be emanating that light because it's going to flow through us. Why? Because we are in existence. It's not an issue of ego. Do you exist? Whether you're miserable, or whether you're happy, or whether you're, toxically positive, you exist. You are. And you can float back and forth between all of those. You still are. You're always being something. So whatever that is, there's a light emanating through you that's keeping you in existence. That would be what created you. Because where else would it be? How else could we exist? We are. Because it is. And it is just that simple. So that light emanates to us, but it's going to emanate in a different angle. For example, let's go back to the supermarket example. I'm in a checkout line with you. I'm just as annoyed as you are. That's my state of being. I believe you're partly responsible for it because I'm reacting to the fact that you're reacting. I could see your face and I could tell you were just spreading negativity all over the place. And I'm sitting there and I'm going ahead and doing my Zen postures because I know there's someone negative in front of me and I'm going to douse with your negativity. Now I have to clean it off and I'm going to have to go home and sage myself. And You. You are the problem. So now I'm going to be positive about it. Isn't that great? Toxic positivity. Regardless of that state of being, we're both there. We're both tapping into a state of I am, a state of being. That is our mind. My angle is completely different than yours. And even if we were annoyed, let's just say, role playing this with the woman in front of us, I'm annoyed because she just returned 3 items from her cart and handed it back to the cashier. You're annoyed because she has 25 items and this is the 10 or less item. And we were looking to get out of here quick, but now we're not, obviously not going to be. The most important thing to you is not that she's returning the items, is that you have 25 items and you're in the wrong item and now you're holding me up. The most important item for me is the fact that you're returning things. Why do you always put things in your cart you know you're not going to be buying, waste our time and the cashier's time? 2 different angles, 2 different states of being. We'll never see it completely the same way. And the example of this in psychology is the ink blot. Put it up. Is it a butterfly? Is it a vase? Is it someone with a gun to someone's head? What do you see? And even if we see butterflies, we'll see those butterflies slightly different. There'll be variations. We will always angle the light differently. So what will your light do when you join your mind into what God created? What will shine through? It will be unique. No one else will be able to replicate it. No one else will be able to duplicate it. And it'll be just as important as any other angle, because all of it makes up the whole. It all makes up the whole. All of it is God. And you are you within that experience. And that's what they mean by the same grace while emanating the light through different angles. And while we can intellectually say, that's cool, I understand that, you don't need to understand it, you need to know it. You are here to experience that while in the body. That's why you're here, is to feel connected while in the body. Not to know it, but to physically experience it. But the first step is understanding what you're doing now and becoming conscious of it. Spirit continues and says, you've heard this information similar to this before, and something within regions for this when you do. I'm going to continue and add some stuff on here. We will once again hold up a mirror and share an uncomfortable truth. It doesn't matter. The point we wish you to finally grasp is that you can know something is the truth, but this will not lead you to the physical experience of it. And we're going to stop there and leave the last sentence. So the point of this is what we were just talking about. What we wish you to finally grasp is that you can know something is true, is the truth. So knowing something is the truth, and this is not the first time that you've heard some type of channeled work, some type of inspired writing, whether it was on a short little meme on Facebook, whether it was someone's written work, whether it was some of the Masters of Saints from previously, something caught your attention. And when you read it, a light bulb went off inside you. I know that to be true. And you just had that expansive moment of your mind exploding outward into everything. And, yes, I get it. And then it all comes crashing back. And next thing you know, you're back in the room. And how has that changed your life? Are you still doing the same things that we've been talking about? Did it stop you from doing those things? Did it get you to see the larger picture? Are you in the mind that God created? And those are the questions that lead you to the point of what Spirit's talking about here. It doesn't matter. We're not here to know something is the truth. The point of why we knew it was true is because we still are what God created. It's not what we're currently perceiving, certainly not. Our world reflects that madness. But we know it. When we hear it or encounter the energy, we light up like a lighthouse. We know it. And then life continues. And then we know what we know, which is what's causing our problems. We remember the knowingness of it politely. But that's not why we're here in a physical body. We're here to physically experience that. Because that's what makes us really light up. When we lit up knowing that truth for that one moment, it's because we were experiencing it as a state of being while in a physical body. And you may say, I lost all contact with my physical body in that one moment. And it doesn't have to be something as esoteric as reading the truth or hearing the truth. It could be making it up the hiking trail to the top of the mountain, and you get there and you just see the beauty of it all. Just spread out for miles around you. And your heart opens up and you just lose track of yourself and just breathe that energy in, and you are. There is no you. You're in a state of I am, and you're expanded. I lost track of my body. Your body's still there. You're experiencing it through your body. That's why you were so satisfied. That's why the aha moment is, because that's what we're here for, is to not know the truth. We're here to physically experience that truth. That's why you're in a vehicle. That's why we came. Not what we remember, but our motives and reactions to it shows the truth. But you won't know that until you experience that yourself. So at this point, we can know something is a truth, but this will not lead to the physical experience of it. Now, Spirit states what does, and this is important because we're never told what to do. We're never told how to get there. No one ever gives us answers. No one ever tells me what I need to do in order to realize that. Okay, well, shut up and listen, because they're saying it. You have to do the work. And the work needed is understanding and changing the way your mind manifests now. Period. That's it. It's that simple. Well, what work? What work do I need to do? Through these 5 lectures, Spirit has said several things to do. Did you do them? That's why you're not getting any results. You need to go back and listen again. And when it says to do something, do it. Not from the standpoint of a checklist. Open curiosity like a kid. Testing it to see what happens, because you're really interested in the experiment. Because you are the experiment. Not because Spirit says so, not because I said so. Certainly not. Don't do it. I don't care. It's your life. Do what you want to do. Do it or don't do it. Do you want to do it? Do you want to get answers? Do you want to know yourself? All right, you've been given a path here. And not to say it's a guaranteed path. I'm not selling you a car. This doesn't come with a warranty. This is about you and learning about you. This is about what you want to do. And if you know that you're feeling something here, I'll read it again. You have to do the work. And the work needed is understanding and changing the way your mind manifests now. And Spirit has been outlining to us this entire time that the way to begin is realize and acceptance. That what we're doing now is not connecting us. It is disconnecting us. And until you realize it's not going to connect you. And the reason why that's important is because the goal, the process of us continually reaching out to our brothers and sisters to do things for them is to get a connection. It's why we keep doing things. We want to be connected. Why do we try to find purpose? So I could be connected. Why do we try to find the right job? So I could be connected. Why do we look for love? So we can have someone and not be alone, which means we're connected. Why are we upset when we have family problems? Because it means we're not connected to them. Why are we upset when we get rejected? Because it means we're not connected to them. And then we internalize it that there's something wrong with us, our image, for who and what we are. And then we don't want to connect anymore. We just want to accept the pain from being not connected. And then disease sets in. And then we die. And then we're born. And we start the process all over again. To quote Susan Powter, stop the insanity. Stop. Realize the pattern. Realize what you're doing in your own way. Make it real. That's the work you have to do. Because once you do, the second part and the work needed is understanding and changing the way your mind manifests now. You'll have all the inspiration you need. It's not going to come from spirit. Angels, archangels, divinities, God, Jesus, chorus lines of divinity, setting things on fire as it goes. None of that is going to impress you. We have had beings walk on water, break unlimited bread and fish, and make unlimited wine. What could be greater than that? Unlimited wine event. Hello? And none of that has impressed us. We've had beings come in to civilize societies, show them proper way to treat each other, set in proper laws to respect each other because that's the level that they can expect. And no, nothing impressed. We've had beings here giving Dharma lessons that was quoted in being 2 to 3 places at once at the same time. That's like Bon Jovi giving 3 concerts at once in New York, in California, and in Orlando at the same time. That would impress me. It hasn't impressed us. We shrug it off. We say it's not real. We say that it's fake. What miracles do we need to know that there's more to life than what we see? And we don't care. They can't do this for you. No more miracles. You do it because you want to, you don't. And if you don't, you don't. See you next life. Maybe you'll be ready then. For those who want to, it's being outlined for you. It is possible. It is happening now. And I'm not the only voice out there telling you this. But it's not going to be by these lessons, these words, the ones that I work with and their divinity, the clarity of me as a channel. Sorry, can't help you. You help you. Stop looking at everyone else pointing to the moon and realize we're pointing to the damn moon. Look at the moon. Don't look at the finger. Look at the moon. Look at yourself. You are the answer. You're the only answer. Because it's only your mind. Whatever it is that you're experiencing it, no one else is being that. No one else can stop that state of being, and no one else can tell you the truth of it, because they didn't create it. You are doing it right now. And until you realize that is your source, not the world around you, and take control of your state of being and responsibility for it, which God already gave you, you can't fix this. You can't fix it. So let's go into the next paragraph. You cannot experience the acceptance God created until you first realize the worth of how you perceive acceptance now. Acceptance is not something you are from a state of being in your world. It is something you've earned or have sacrificed parts of yourself to be worthy of from others. You have sacrificed the truth of what you believe, your dreams, your hopes, things you have physically, and even yourself mentally, emotionally, and sexually for another, just to have their acceptance. Well, ouch, Spirit didn't pull any punches there. They covered all the bases, didn't they? So let's take a look at that. Right off the bat, you cannot experience the acceptance God created. Okay, that's an opener. That's a page turner. Because they're saying cannot happen. Now, who is someone to tell me what to do? Well, I don't know. I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that if they're living beyond the body and beyond that experience, then maybe they might have something to know about a little bit more about acceptance of God than we do. And that's what you're here to decide. Your heart will tell you the truth. But you cannot experience the acceptance of God created until, okay, page turner, what do we need to do? You first realize the worth of how you perceive acceptance now. Back to the beginning. So we can't get to the acceptance God created. And notice they use the word realize, because that was the word they used in the previous lessons. Realize and accept. And listen to what they said. Until you first realize, there's that word coming in first, realize the worth of how you perceive acceptance now. So the first thing, as we've been saying, and they're going to keep pounding this point home, you're not going to change anything until you realize what you're doing doesn't work. And this is not esoteric. You don't need to go to the top of a mountain. You don't need advanced yoga teachings. You don't need a blessing of a guru. And you don't need 2 pounds of sage. Put your crystals away. Let's just make this clear. You don't need cleansing. You are not negative. You're not out of balance. You just don't know any better. Because you haven't observed how you're creating your life now. And because you've been so busy internalizing all the worth of not having acceptance based on those outside of you, how dare they, and then internalizing it, I'm not worthy. Next life, how dare they, there's something wrong with me. Next life, onward and onward. Because of the same dance going on over and over again, what we're not doing is observing what action we're taking and the results from it. Because we're too busy projecting it or internalizing it. So 2 actions. And sometimes we do both simultaneously. We project it and internalize it at the same time. It's a mirror. Get used to it. It's what we do. It's illusion. That's the point of illusion. Duality. But either way, what we're not observing, keeping our attention on, is what we keep doing over and over again that's creating the feeling of being disconnected, the experience of being disconnected. And what it is chasing acceptance outside of ourselves into the world. We don't look to what God created. We look to what we have to create. You don't have to create it, sweetheart. It's already been created. That's the point. Acceptance is a state of being. And it's not one that you have to create. Because you can't because of free will. That's the point. You can't because of free will. In order for that to work, and just picture this, I walk out into town square. There I am standing there. And everyone shopping, everyone walking around suddenly stops and looks at me because I demand their attention. I strip off my clothes. I am totally naked. There I am in the middle of town square, nude. And I say, accept me as I am. In order for that to be a continuous state of being, I would need them to continue to stand there and affirm that. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm asking them for their acceptance, aren't I? So what happens when they take their attention off of me? And they start shopping again. Well, I lose contact with their energy. So don't I just become the crazy guy standing nude in the middle of the town square? Because they're not looking at me anymore. They're off doing their own thing. So in order for it to work, everyone around me has to now act in accordance to what I expect. When I need attention, you're going to give it in that instant. When I'm looking for affirmation, you're going to give it in an instant, but not just any affirmation. Exactly the way I perceive it should be. The level of intensity, the look on the face, the expression of the hands coming forward, the compassionate warmth. I mean, I want it all. I have expectations here. And you have to fulfill this without me speaking them to you. Because if I have to tell you what I need, well, then you're just doing it because I said so, and it's not real acceptance, is it? Are we being slightly unrealistic in our expectations? And if you think I'm off base with that, then really examine it when you get pissed off when someone doesn't give you what you expected. What did you expect exactly? And why did you get disappointed that it wasn't given in the exact way and method that it was? And at the exact moment you demanded it. I'm going to say need it. We say need. No. It's not need. It's demand. Because someone's going through their day and dealing with their own issues, their own problems, their own weight that they're creating. And they should just know automatically exactly when we needed that. And if they don't, we didn't get acceptance. Disappointment set in. It's not realistic at all. You are not God. And everyone's energy is not going to flow through you. It doesn't work that way. The universe does not flow that way. And that right there is what Spirit's talking about flowing with the universe. Your mind is set to flow with the universe. The universe is not set to flow through your mind the way you expect it to be. Your mind was already created. That's why you can be something right now. It's because it was already created. What you're not aware of is what that is. What you're aware of is what it's not. What you don't realize and are conscious of is that you're not aware of what you really are. And that what you are aware of is what you're not. And you think you are. And you're trying to make it work when it doesn't flow right through your mind. It creates separation. It creates dissatisfaction because you are already connected. And you think you're the one that has to create it. No, you're the one that has to accept it's already been created for you. That's the difference. That's what they're talking about. And so acceptance is not something that you are from a state of being in your world. And it's not. Acceptance is not something we do from a state of being. It's something that we have to do to gain it, to gain people's respect, to gain people's approval. Whether it's having good morals, good standing, good job, good family, healthy body. There's so many things to look at, so many expectations we set up on that area. And they say it is something you earn or have to sacrifice parts of yourself to be worthy of from others. And they list it out and get right down into the nitty gritty. And this is going through all our lives. We've sacrificed the truth of what we believe. We've sacrificed our dreams. We've sacrificed our hopes. We've sacrificed things we have physically. And we've even sacrificed ourselves mentally, emotionally, and sexually for another, just to have their acceptance. How many times have we had people in our life where we put them first, just so we were not alone? And in order to do that, we gave up what we believed, our dreams, hopes, our physical abundance, our mental state, our emotional state, and then in trauma, allowing ourselves to be treated sexually a certain way, just to have them around. Just because we were afraid to say no. So is Spirit off base there with that? And hopefully, I would hope the majority of people don't say check, 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 check to every single example. But there are those of us that have to sit there and look at it and say, yep, check, 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 check to all of them. And the reality of it is that we've had so many lives, there's going to be something on the menu for everybody, if not all of them, from one life to the next. And therein lies the issue. Spirit goes on to say, and this is the last paragraph, the goal here is not to create a sense of pain from this, but finally being honest with the pain you are in, have been in, and will carry into your next life with this type of belief. Sisters and brothers, how long will you have to make yourself suffer in loyalty to an illusion that does not serve you or others? Until you accept and perceive what you are creating now, you cannot possibly join us in accepting what was already created for us. How can you accept if you are in denial? End quote. And this is the final paragraph of Lesson 5. And this one, when I wrote it, or typed it, and I got done with it, just about had me crying. Because a sense of compassion that was coming through with this. And I think it's important how they start this paragraph, because they're talking about some heavy-hitting stuff out here. Stuff that we don't like to look at, but we need to. And the point of it is not to create a sense of pain. Spirit's not trying to make us be in pain over this, to feel bad, to feel depressed, to be negative. Their point is for us to finally be honest with the pain we're in. Because if there weren't issues, you wouldn't feel bad about this. You wouldn't feel depressed. You wouldn't feel any of those things. The worst that can happen is you would say, oh, I remember when, because it's not who you are anymore. But if you're feeling bad, it's because you were feeling bad. You only just became aware of it. The words didn't make you feel that way. You're reacting to them from past experience. Because it is. It's still there. And that's their point. You can't begin to change it until we're honest with the pain we're actually in with this. It's just like going ahead and saying, I don't believe, I'm not going to look for a relationship anymore. I'm just going to accept that I'm going to be alone because it's less painful that way. What did we just say? I'm in pain now, but that's less painful than trying to find a relationship, so I'll accept the pain that I can control. What? Why? Why would you do that to yourself? But we do all the time. And until someone holds a mirror up to say, hello, you're still in pain, you forget because you become numb with it. We have become numb with it. Why do you think we're disconnected? Why do you think empathy in the group mind is such an issue right now? Oh, there's a social issue and all these people are dying. Yeah, I don't care. Someone send them a boat of rice. I've got my own problems. Literally. Literally. In countries where we have so much, they care so little about giving anything. They could care less. Doesn't affect me because we're numb. We are literally numb because that's what's being required of us to continue moving forward under these conditions. And it's getting worse. Spirit continues and says, sisters and brothers, how long will you make yourself suffer in loyalty to an illusion that does not serve you or others? And that sentence right there crystallizes everything down to the point of waking up to this. What's important about waking up to the truth of this? It's because it's an illusion. We believe we can go out and gain the completeness of acceptance, connection, through the actions we're taking. And in the end of it, we're not connected, nor is the person we're trying to connect to. None of us are connected. But what's the biggest complaint? I'm lonely and I'm alone. Robin Williams quote, there is no greater pain than being alone in a room full of people. We are not connecting. We're doing activities to show we're connected, but we're not really connected. We're not really who we are. Everything we're built on is an illusion like we're connecting when we're not. And things continue to get worse. And we continue painting with prettier colors to make it look like everything's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's an illusion, and it's not serving you, and it's not serving others. Spirit says, until you accept and perceive what you are creating now, you cannot possibly join us in accepting what was already created for us. An important statement. Again, defining it out for you. Until you accept what you're creating now and what it's doing to you, you can't join Spirit in accepting what was already created for us. So Spirit says they exist in a state of eternity with the grace of God. And they're saying you can join them. That changes everything. Because that puts it into something that you don't need to wait to die for. You don't have to earn your way in. You don't have to believe a certain way to qualify for it. They're saying you are already there. You can join them by acceptance of what God already created. Because it already gave it. It already gave it. It's just like free will still working. Whether we agree with it or not, whether we believe with it or not, free will still works. And you can try to change it as much as you want. The end result is a person still in control of their own mind, their own state of being. You can influence it, but you can't change it. And eventually, as much as you influence it, it's going to change back. Because it's not your hand on the oar that's steering that ship. It's theirs. And they're the only hand that can steer it. Because of free will. So, in looking at this, until you accept how you're creating now, you can't accept what was already created for you. You can't steer your ship there because you don't realize how to steer it yet. because you're still stuck in a cycle and won't change it. That's what they're saying here. And the final statement is, how can you accept if you're in denial? And this is where it comes down to, when you know, based through observation, that what you're doing is not working from a state of being, not your thoughts, not what you feel, not what you talk about over your coffee clutch with friends to sound intelligent, not what you post on Facebook in the one-shot posts of 2 sentences, but when you cry out, I can't be this anymore, and you mean it, you're ready to step out of denial. And notice how they end it. They use the word accept if you are in denial. How could you accept if you're in denial? So realize, remove the denial, and you'll have acceptance. There's the math formula for you. So thank you for joining us on episode 5. It was my pleasure to go ahead and bring this information to you. My name is Ethos Korban, Korban Ethos. I am the channel. And you can check our page out on Ethos Communing on Facebook. Please give us a like. This is where you'll be notified